Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Eric again. It's Monday morning, and I just wanted to touch base with everyone. This week is a new week that we'll be connecting with our students. We're kind of in that middle ground, um, moving out of the first little trimester here and moving towards the holiday seasons. And typically, what we've seen in the data over the last couple of years, as they get closer to the holidays, things start going downwards. We start seeing their motivation go down. We start seeing their desire to take initiative go down. We start seeing that there's an increase of family problems. We start seeing that they're getting bored with some of the things about school. And oftentimes they're bucking the system right about now. We see an increase in intervention visits. We see an increase in counseling visits. We see an increase in absences and or truancies. So there's a lot of things that are going on. If you think about it too, holiday seasons are particularly difficult for our group of students because often there's so much dysfunction in their homes and they don't even have normal holidays. So they don't look forward to holiday seasons. You know, it could be a dad drunk on Christmas that just kills it. It could be that mom is gone on Christmas at a club. It could be that they got little to no money to buy any gifts or celebrate. I mean, they struggle, so this isn't the greatest times for them. So with all that being said, I want to encourage you to get a pulse for your circle. Have an idea, use your gut and the feeling, your conscience that God gives you to make a decision whether we take a break from this curriculum, which is the curriculum on maturity, and come back to it and move into a dump circle, which I'm going to talk about today, or maybe maturity is the perfect topic for your group right now and you don't want to miss the opportunity. So for me, last week I took a break from the curriculum. I actually kind of intertwined it, but I definitely did dump circles. And I did introduce the ideas of leadership and the types of leadership. I kind of fluctuated for each group. Sometimes I went through the whole lesson, but most of the time I was doing dump sessions. So what a dump session is, it's students' opportunity to talk freely in group. So what the facilitator's job is to create a safe place and to lead by dumping. And it's just basically letting out of your mind, your soul, your spirit, your body, everything that could be potentially bothering you. It's about talking about things that are on your mind. It's about complaining about things that you want to complain about. It's about expressing your frustrations or your anger. Or maybe it's even a time to celebrate. Maybe it's a season of success for them and they just want to talk about how good they're doing. So oftentimes I will refer to the dump session just like I do the journaling sessions. So I'll say, just like we journal and we write until the beeper goes off, we challenge ourselves to write. Same thing in the dump session with talk. You just talk and you keep challenging yourself to talk. You don't stop until the timer goes off, right? So I will typically give about 3 minutes per person. Sometimes, I permit them to go longer if I feel they need to. And I'm not there with the timer like beep, but in my head, I'm clocking it and I'm helping them be able to get out some of the things that are inside. So I'll say things like, I'll lead off by saying like, this week, it's been really frustrating. I work with students all day and they try my patience. Sometimes I just want to yell and cuss at them and give up and tell them how dumb they are and this and that, because you guys are difficult to work with. But I know that I can't do that. And, sometimes I even take some of my frustrations home with my children. And it's really disappointing. And I get down on myself because, I take things out on them that they don't even deserve. So I've been really trying to be aware of that lately and work on that. Another thing that I'm frustrated with would probably be my boss, my job, just the fact that there are these requirements and expectations that I don't particularly like or enjoy, but I have to do them. And I don't really like being bossed around or having to like, dance to anybody's tune. but I have to do it. And sometimes it just gets me upset and I want to tuck tail and run. I've also been a little bit depressed. You know, these kinds of times remind me of my loved ones who I've lost. Uh, you know, when I think about my brothers, I think about how cool it would be for them to know my children, uh, and to be a part of their lives and to look forward to spending Christmas and Thanksgiving together. But they're gone. You know, their lives were taken, and I can't change that. And it's hard. It's hard during this season for me. So that's me opening up in the dumb circle. So then you would say something like, would anybody else like to go? And then, of course, you know, I coach them up. I'm like, yeah, does anybody want to just express your frustration? Anybody frustrated with anything? You? Okay, go ahead and talk about that, right? So then they'll have a hard time to get going, but I will often say things like, and you're frustrated with that person because, and that makes you feel, and when you feel that way, things often go right. So I'm feeding them transitional phrases to help them dump. Sometimes all these times are very heart wrenching, and you know, as a facilitator, you just want to be present and you want to listen. Your job is not to fix the problem. Your job is to listen, to stand with them, to let them know that you hear them, you see them, and that you believe in them. At the end of the circle, I challenge every person to dump. But if they want to pass, I allow them to pass, because sometimes just listening is enough and that they can relate. And they may not be ready yet. But I think in most of our groups, our kids can be challenged right now to be ready to share. Yeah, so facilitate that if you feel it needs to be done, and take your time. If it means taking the whole period, do it, because it's worth it. And you'll see how it brings a culture and a continuity to your group, a trust to your group. At the end of the circle, the dumb session, I usually will share something like, man, I really appreciate you guys, you know, just being honest and trusting the circle and trusting me with your junk. And I want you to know that I'm here with you. I'm here for you. If you guys need to talk after even more, I'm available. Next week, I'll pick up on X, Y, and Z, and we'll talk about how we can work through these things. But today, I just wanted you to have a moment to just let it out. So I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys. And this will be the perfect time, I think, to offer students some resources that we have. So one of the resources would be the Landing. The Landing meets at Purpose Church on Tuesdays, and we meet from 6:30 to 8:30. Another awesome thing would be our D group, our D-Kit sessions. If you guys want to connect them to me on Sundays, I work with a small group of students on Sundays at my house. But if you want to start your own D group, this would be the time. It's easy to sign up and sign on and gain access to the curriculum. And I'd love to get you started. And even if you start with 2 students in your D group, basically it's video driven curriculum, and it sparks questions and helps the discipleship process. That might be something that you want to start doing with your group. And then of course we have HSM and JHM. That would be a good community for them to get plugged into. So you guys let me know whatever you may need. I want to make sure I'm supporting you. Here's another thing that I want to show you. I'm going to start screen sharing at this time. This is our curriculum for this week. It breaks it down into 3 types of maturity. So there's cognitive maturity, there's emotional maturity, and then there's decision-making maturity. The cognitive maturity, in the objective, it says we want to help teens see a vision for their lives. We desire to increase their knowledge of this concept and give them practical tools to practice mature ways. Cognitive maturity deals in the element of understanding, psychologically, getting in touch with who you are and some of your triggers, and then also being able to gain some control over your thoughts and exercising your will. It says here, with maturity comes great benefits. And during this time, we want to call teens to a greater maturity. And we feel that this will greatly impact their relationships, their goals, and their life in positive ways. So maturity is basically the ability to respond to an environment in an appropriate manner. Maturity is completeness of growth and development. In the transition, we say here, youth have difficult times making sound decisions, acting appropriately, and reacting appropriately. Where we're going to focus on is the making sound decisions, the precursor to this, which is before a decision is made. Obviously, thoughts are going through the mind, and really guiding those decisions that are going to be made. So we're dealing in the precursor to this, to making decisions. Okay, there's a YouTube video here that is YouTube of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget what it's, Dumb and Dumber, where they're just acting so immature and they're singing this annoying song, and they're in a van with another gentleman, and he finally just freaks out and says, "Stop!" Right? So it's a good introduction to say, youth sometimes are just immature, and you're immature in your thinking. Sometimes you're immature in your reactions. You're immature in your decision making, right? And we want them to get in touch with that. And that's because of their age and their development and so forth. If you want to utilize this, you can develop a time where you carve into your time a journal entry. And it basically says, share of a time when you've reasoned with someone. And I define it here. To reason with someone is to try and understand their point of view and where they are coming from. To reason with them would let them know that you're open to understanding how they feel, so that you can come to an agreement or understanding. Then I move to a group activity. Here, you would give scenarios where students would respond as to what they would do in these challenging situations. I really challenge you guys to get creative, including relational circumstances, work scenarios that they may not fully understand yet, school scenarios, etc. And we'll share as mentors some of our responses to maybe one that we've created beforehand, so that they get the picture of what we're trying to do, right? And this is, again, developing their cognitive maturity, really working in their thought process and identifying what healthy choices are before even making them, right? The closing would be to see how students respond to suggested scenarios. It may have revealed where they are at in their level of maturity, and we would encourage them that they will grow in time, but also share that they can put focus on growing in these areas now. And here's where I allow a lot of freedom to the facilitator. Like what I do is I will often, I'm gonna get out of here now. I will often utilize a whiteboard like this, and I'm gonna show you guys. And what I will do to help them understand cognitive maturity is I will put their name up top. So let's just use one student as an example, which was a recent student of mine, which was Josie. And then I will say 3 things that get in their way. Now with Josie today, she said attitude / anger. And this is get in the way of their goals, their dreams, and their vision for their life. Right? Then I'll say, what's another one? And then she said family problems, right? This gets in the way. And then another one was lack of motivation. Okay? Now from here, I would go underneath and I'd say, okay, who are you really angry at, right? Who are you really angry at? So she said, well, I'm angry at myself. She said she was angry at God. She said she was angry at teachers, certain teachers that piss her off, and so forth, right? I'd work through that. I'd say, okay, family problems, what are they? And are they ever going to change? The resounding answer was no. And then she detailed what the problems were. Lack of motivation. I talked about what is underneath there. And really, we got to the place where she said, well, fear. And I said, well, fear of what? She said, fear of failure. And I helped them through this process. She eventually said she's fearful of not belonging and or feeling accepted, right? So then underneath here, I contrast this with the gospel and with what God does and how he satisfies these needs so that they don't get in the way of achieving our goals, dreams, and visions, but rather we're able to utilize them in a different manner to get to our goals, our dreams, and our visions for our lives, right? So this is where I work through, and I'm doing a surface skeleton, but man, I work through this with each student. And this is where those of you that have multiple mentors at your sites, you can really break out into groups and do this pretty quickly. And man, it's very, very rewarding time. The kids walk away and they understand, because when you peel back the layers, you're able to see like, oh man, now I understand why I make these decisions. So my level of cognitive maturity is increasing. And I know that when I feel angry, it's not that I'm angry at my teacher, God, or whatever. Maybe it's that I'm angry at my mom and my dad. My dad for abandoning me, and my mom for not really giving me all the love and attention that I need, because now she has to pull double duty and work and provide for the house as well as be the nurturer of the home, right? So now I know who I'm really angry with, and I can work through that, understanding that God is the one who can help me feel belonged and loved and accepted. And now I don't have to make these dysfunctional decisions that will stop me from accomplishing my goals and dreams, right? So it's working through this chart. It's really healthy for the students, and you guys can utilize that if you want during your groups. So hopefully you guys have clearly understood what a dump session is. This is a place and time for kids to just be raw, be real, be honest, find a place of community where they're not judged, where they're sharing things, and for you as a facilitator to just let them know that you're present, that you hear them, that you see them, and that you believe in them, right? And that's a beautiful process there. Also, you're plugging them into resources, not trying to fix their problem, but you're plugging them into resources. Also, if you want to go through with the maturity curriculum, everything was there. We worked through it. You can utilize something like this towards the end as a closing to help them. Or you can develop scenarios like, what would you do if X, Y, and Z happen? That helps them work their cognitive maturity and make decisions that are healthy and right. And we just got off of talking about integrity. So we want to have integrity be woven into that decision-making process. So hopefully you guys feel supported. Hopefully you feel a little bit better. If you had any questions about this, please feel free to message me. Text is always the best. All of you guys have my number. So I'll see you guys soon. I'm praying for your circles this week. Okay? Later.